When you marry the person you love, you're told that you're not just gaining a spouse, you're gaining a whole new family. It's supposed to be a bonus, an expansion of your world, an extra set of people to share holidays and build memories with. And for a while, for me it really was. For the first 3 years of my marriage, I couldn't have asked for better in-laws. But there's a dark flip side to that coin one they don't mention in the wedding toasts. Sometimes that new family doesn't see you as a son. They see you as a solution, a resource, a walking, talking bank account with a direct deposit they feel entitled to. My name is Axel Sanchez. I'm 34 years old and I work as a senior IT project manager. My job is all about logic, structure, and managing complex systems to achieve a specific goal. I build plans, I mitigate risks, and I ensure that projects are delivered on time and, most importantly, on budget. I've built a good life for myself and my wife, a life based on those same principles: careful planning, hard work, and mutual respect. We're not extravagantly wealthy, but we're comfortable and stable. We built our future together brick by brick, and for 5 years that future felt secure. But a fortress is only as strong as its weakest wall, and I never imagined the attack would come from the inside. My in-laws, Robert and Carol, are 63 and 61 respectively. When I first met them, they were the kind of people you'd be happy to have as your second set of parents. Robert was a jovial guy who could talk for hours about classic cars, and Carol made a lasagna that could probably bring about world peace. The first 3 years of my marriage were filled with pleasant Sunday dinners, backyard barbecues, and genuine warmth. They welcomed me into the family without hesitation. I wasn't just their daughter's husband, I was Axel. We got along. It was easy, comfortable, and exactly what you'd hope for. They were proud of my career, and they adored their daughter. Life was good. The first crack in the foundation appeared 2 years ago. It wasn't a loud, dramatic event. It was a quiet, sad phone call. The company Robert had worked at for over 20 years had been bought out, and in the ensuing corporate restructuring, his entire department was eliminated. He was given a modest severance package and a handshake. Carol, who worked part-time as an administrative assistant, found her hours cut back so severely around the same time that it made more sense for her to just stop working. And just like that, they were forced into an early retirement they were not financially or emotionally prepared for. My wife and I were, of course, devastated for them. We rushed over. We offered support, both emotional and practical. I sat down with Robert and went over their finances, trying to use my project management skills to help them map out a new budget. It was grim. They had some savings, but nowhere near enough to sustain their lifestyle for another 20 or 30 years. It was a genuinely difficult situation, and our hearts went out to them. We wanted to help. We truly did. We just had no idea what their definition of help would eventually become. It started subtly. A few weeks after their retirement, Carol called my wife. "Honey, we're just a little tight this week before the pension kicks in. Could you and Axel spare $50 for groceries? We'll pay you back next week." Of course we did. We didn't even think twice. It was $50. What kind of son-in-law would I be to say no when we dropped off the cash? Carol gave me a hug and said the words that would soon become a constant echoing refrain in our lives. "Thank you so much. You know, family helps family." At the time, it sounded so wholesome, so right. It felt good to be in a position to help, but they never paid us back. And a few weeks later, another call came. This time, it was Robert, $100 for a utility bill they'd forgotten about. "You know how it is getting used to this new budget," he said with a nervous laugh. Again, we helped, and again, we heard the mantra, "We really appreciate it, Axel. Family helps family." The phrase was starting to feel less like a statement of fact and more like a justification, a transaction. Over the next 2 years, the slow drip of requests became a steady stream. The amounts grew. $100 became $200 for a car repair. $200 became $300 for a minor dental emergency that we later saw on social media was a teeth-whitening procedure. The requests for loans completely disappeared, replaced by the simple, direct expectation of help. They stopped even pretending they would pay us back. The requests also became more frequent, moving from once a month to every other week, sometimes more. Each and every time, the request was wrapped in the comforting, suffocating blanket of their favorite phrase, "Family helps family." It became their shield. It was the answer to every unasked question. Why are you asking your son-in-law for money instead of getting a part-time job? Family helps family. Why did you buy a new top-of-the-line television when you can't afford your electric bill? Family helps family. It was a conversation ender, a guilt-laced weapon designed to shut down any hint of refusal. If we hesitated even for a second, Carol's voice would get a little colder. "Oh, I see. I just thought, well, I guess I thought family helps family." The worst part was that it was a one-way street. They never once offered to help us with anything. When my wife and I moved into our new house, my own father flew across the country to help us paint and move boxes. Robert and Carol, who lived 15 minutes away, stopped by for an hour to supervise and have a glass of iced tea before declaring they needed to get going. When we needed a dog sitter for a weekend, they were suddenly too busy. Their version of family helps family wasn't a philosophy of mutual support. It was a business model where we were the sole investors and they were the perpetual beneficiaries. This constant pressure began to take a serious toll. My wife was trapped in an impossible position. These were her parents. She loved them, but she saw exactly what was happening. She saw their sense of entitlement growing with every dollar we gave them. Our home, our sanctuary, started to feel besieged. Every time the phone rang and it was one of them, we'd exchange that look. A silent, weary glance that said, "Here we go again. What is it this time?" We started screening our calls. We'd have long, exhausted conversations at night trying to figure out a way to draw a line without completely blowing up the family. "Axel, I don't know what to do," she'd say, her voice filled with a quiet frustration that broke my heart. "If we say no, they'll act like we're monsters. If we say yes, this is never going to end. They're just going to keep taking until there's nothing left." And I would hold her and tell her the most important thing, the one truth that kept us sane. It's not you versus me. It's us. We are a team. We will figure this out together. And we were. We never let their pressure create a rift between us. Our frustration was always directed outward at the situation, at the relentless chipping away entitlement of her parents. We were a united front. But even the strongest shield gets dented after 2 years of constant battering. We were tired. Tired of the manufactured emergencies. Tired of the emotional blackmail. Tired of their mantra. We were living in a state of perpetual low-grade anxiety, always waiting for the next text, the next phone call, the next request disguised as a family obligation. We knew deep down that this couldn't go on forever. A breaking point was inevitable. The pressure had been building for 24 months, and the structure was groaning under the strain. Something had to give. We just never imagined that the final catastrophic break would be triggered by something as absurdly extravagant as a 10-day luxury cruise to the Caribbean. We were bracing for another leak in the roof, another unexpected bill. We weren't prepared for a tidal wave. The tidal wave hit on a Tuesday evening. There was no warning, no distant rumble on the horizon. My wife and I were in the kitchen making dinner. The scene was aggressively normal. Music was playing softly from a little speaker on the counter. The smell of garlic and olive oil was in the air, and we were debating which show we were going to binge watch later. It was one of those simple, perfect moments of domestic peace that we had worked so hard to build for ourselves. A peace that for the past 2 years had felt increasingly fragile, like a thin sheet of ice over a deep, cold lake. My phone buzzed on the granite countertop. I glanced at it. A group text. The participants were me, my wife, and her parents, Robert and Carol. My stomach did a familiar, unpleasant little flip. It was the Pavlovian response I'd developed over 2 years of their financial emergencies. My wife saw my expression change, and her smile tightened just a little. She didn't have to ask. She knew. "What is it this time?" She asked, her voice quiet, already braced for impact. "Don't know yet," I said, trying to keep my own voice light. "Probably just a picture of their cat or something." But we both knew that was a lie. They didn't send cat pictures. They sent invoices disguised as family chats. I dried my hands on a towel and picked up the phone. My wife came over and stood beside me, leaning in to read over my shoulder. And there it was, the message that would change everything. It wasn't a rambling paragraph full of hints and emotional manipulation like usual. This one was different. It was shockingly direct, almost corporate. It was from Carol. It started with a cheerful, "Hi kids, hope you're having a great week." The standard disarming opener. Then it got straight to the point. "Your father and I have found the perfect opportunity to finally relax and recharge, and we are so excited. It's a 10-day Caribbean gem luxury cruise. We've wanted to do this our whole lives." Attached to the message was a link to a travel website. I didn't even have to click it. Below the link was a screenshot of the booking summary. My eyes scanned the details, feeling a growing sense of unreality. 10 days, balcony stateroom, all-inclusive drink package, excursions to 3 different islands, and then, at the bottom of the screenshot, circled in a clumsy red line drawn with a phone's editing tool, was the total price, $12,000. My brain stalled for a second. I reread the number. $12,000 for a cruise. I felt my wife stiffen beside me. I could hear her sharp, quiet intake of breath. The message wasn't over. The final paragraph was the payload, the warhead. "The total cost is $12,000 and it's non-refundable, so we need to get it paid for by the end of the month. As you know, our retirement funds are tight and we just can't swing it. We know this is a lot to ask, but family helps family, and we knew we could count on you, Axel, to make this dream a reality for us. Let us know when you can transfer the funds. We can't wait. Love, Mom and Dad." I read it again, and a third time. My vision started to narrow, the cheerful kitchen sounds fading into a dull roar in my ears. It wasn't a request. It was a demand. It was an assignment. "Let us know when you can transfer the funds." Not if, when. They hadn't asked if we could help. They hadn't asked if we were willing. They had made a $12,000 purchasing decision and had sent me the bill. And they had used their mantra, their weaponized phrase, "Family helps family," as the signature on the invoice. I slowly placed the phone face down on the counter. The silence in the kitchen was suddenly deafening. The sizzling garlic in the pan seemed miles away. I looked at my wife. Her face was pale. All the color had drained from it, and her eyes, which were usually so bright and full of life, looked shadowed and old. She looked exhausted. Not just tired from a long day at work, but a deep soul-level exhaustion that had been 2 years in the making. She just stared at the phone on the counter as if it were a venomous snake. "Non-refundable," she whispered. The word hung in the air between us. That was the part that screamed premeditation. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment idea. They had planned this. They had picked out their dream vacation, found one with a non-refundable clause to create a sense of urgency and obligation, and then sent us the bill. It was the most calculated, manipulative move they had ever pulled. It was a hostage negotiation where our love and sense of family duty were the hostages. A hot, white wave of anger washed over me. It was so intense it felt cold. It wasn't the frantic shouting kind of anger. It was a quiet, clarifying rage. For 2 years, I had played the part of the dutiful son-in-law. I'm a 34-year-old senior IT project manager. I've worked hard for everything I have. My wife and I have been smart with our money. We have goals. We have our own future to build. And in their eyes, none of that mattered. My success wasn't for me or for us. It was for them. I wasn't a person. I was a resource. I wasn't a son. I was a bank whose slogan was, "Family helps family." They circled the price. I said, my voice dangerously calm. They drew a red circle around the $12,000, like they were highlighting the part I was responsible for. My wife finally looked up from the phone and met my eyes. I saw the deep hurt in hers, the pain of knowing your own parents see you this way. But underneath the hurt, I saw something else. I saw a flicker of steel, the same steel I had seen in her when she'd negotiated a promotion at work, the same determination I'd seen when she'd run her first half marathon. It was the look of someone who had just been pushed past her limit. "This is it, isn't it?" she said. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. I just nodded. This is it. All our conversations from the past 2 years came rushing back. The late-night talks, the frustration, the anxiety, her saying, "If we say yes, this is never going to end. They're just going to keep taking until there's nothing left." We were there. We were at the edge of nothing left. Not financially, we could technically afford it. It would hurt, it would set back our own savings goals significantly, but we could write the check. But that wasn't the point. The nothing left she was talking about was our peace, our respect, our future. If we paid this, we were no longer a married couple building a life. We were the official sponsors of the Robert and Carol Retirement Fund. This wasn't about $100 for a utility bill anymore. This wasn't about $500 for a supposed car repair. This was $12,000 for a luxury vacation, a vacation that we ourselves wouldn't even consider taking right now because we were being responsible. The audacity was breathtaking. They, with no income and insufficient savings, felt entitled to a lifestyle that we, with 2 high-paying jobs, were actively choosing to postpone for the sake of our long-term security. What do they think I am? I asked the room, not really expecting an answer. Do they think I just have a vault of money in the basement? Do they have any idea how many hours of work, how much stress and project management and late nights that $12,000 represents? No, my wife said, her voice gaining strength. No, they don't. And you know what? They don't care. They just see the result. They see our nice house, our 2 cars, and they think it's a community pot of gold that they're entitled to a piece of. She walked over to the stove and turned off the burner under the pan of garlic, the forgotten dinner now completely irrelevant. She leaned back against the counter, crossed her arms, and looked at me. The weariness was still there, but now it was overlaid with a hard, clear-eyed resolution. "We can't do it, Axel," she said. "I love them. They're my parents. But we cannot do this. If we do this, we are telling them that this is okay. We're telling them there is no line. There is no boundary they can't cross. Next, it will be a new car, then a down payment for a condo in Florida. It will never, ever stop." I felt a profound sense of relief wash over me, chasing away the anger. I knew I wouldn't pay it. I had known from the second I read the text. But hearing her say it, hearing the absolute conviction in her voice solidified everything. This wasn't me against her parents. This was us together drawing a line in the sand. Not with a stick, but with concrete and rebar. "I know," I said. "I would never do it without you being 100% on board, but I agree. We can't." We stood there in silence for another minute, the gravity of our decision settling in. This wasn't just saying no to a request. This was fundamentally changing the entire dynamic of our family. This was the end of an era. The era of us being their safety net. The era of family helps family being a one-way transaction. We both knew the fallout would be immense. There would be guilt trips, anger, maybe even threats of cutting us off. They were going to detonate. But for the first time in a long time, the thought of their reaction didn't fill me with anxiety. It filled me with a strange sense of calm. Let them detonate. Let the whole rotten structure of entitlement and expectation they had built come crashing down. We would be standing in the rubble, but we would be standing there together. Free. The tidal wave had hit. It had crashed over our quiet, peaceful evening and threatened to pull us under. But as we stood there in the kitchen, united and resolute, I realized we weren't going to drown. We were going to build a seawall, and it was going to be finished by morning. We spent the next hour not talking, but planning. We didn't just need a seawall. We needed a complete coastal defense system, and it had to be deployed immediately. My wife was the one who found the core of the idea. "They keep saying, 'Family helps family,'" she said. "So let's help them. Let's give them the kind of help that actually builds a future, not just funds a fantasy." Her words hit me. Real help isn't a blank check. It's a hand up, not a handout. So I got on my laptop. As a senior IT project manager, my entire job revolves around finding efficient, logical solutions to complex problems. This was the ultimate problem. I opened up a major online job portal and started searching. I wasn't looking for anything demeaning or impossible. I was looking for legitimate opportunities within a 10-mile radius of their home for people in their early 60s with their specific work backgrounds. Robert, my father-in-law, who is 63, had spent 30 years in retail management. Carol, my 61-year-old mother-in-law, had been an administrative assistant for most of her career. It took me less than 30 minutes to find 5 perfect pre-vetted positions: 2 for a retail floor manager at a well-known home improvement store, 3 for administrative assistants at a local medical center and a law firm. These were real jobs with benefits, with regular hours, with the dignity of a paycheck they would earn themselves. This was the help they needed, not the help they wanted. My wife watched over my shoulder as I copied the links into a new draft message. She read each job description carefully, nodding slowly. "This is it," she whispered. "This is the right thing to do. It's fair, it's supportive, and it's a no that they can't argue with logically." I typed out our response. It was short, precise, and left absolutely no room for negotiation. At exactly T-minus 24 hours from their initial demand, I took a deep breath. My wife squeezed my hand and I hit send on the group chat. The message read, "Family helps family build a better future. Here are some opportunities. We will not be discussing the cruise again." Underneath that text were 5 clean professional links to 5 potential new lives for them. For about an hour, there was silence, a deafening, unnerving quiet. It was the calm before the storm. I knew it. My wife knew it. They were reading our message, processing it, and the gears of their outrage were slowly beginning to grind. Then, at T-minus 23 hours, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Carol. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a thank you. It was a single sentence dripping with venom. Is this some kind of sick joke? That single message opened the floodgates. For the next 22 hours, my phone became a weapon aimed directly at my peace of mind. It was a relentless, escalating barrage of digital hostility. First came the accusations. We were selfish. We were ungrateful. After everything they'd done for my wife growing up, how could we be so cruel? How could I, a 34-year-old man, be so disrespectful to my elders? Then came the guilt trips. Carol sent photos of my wife as a child with long paragraphs about the sacrifices they'd made. Robert sent curt, angry messages about how he never asked for anything, and the one time he does this is the response he gets. They completely, utterly, and intentionally ignored the 5 job links. It was as if we had sent them an empty message. Not once did they mention them. Not once did they acknowledge the effort we took to find them real, viable solutions. Their silence on the jobs was more revealing than any of their angry words. It proved beyond any shadow of a doubt that this was never about needing help. It was about wanting service. They didn't want to be self-sufficient. They wanted to be retired, and they had decided that my salary was their pension plan. Their mantra of family helps family was a lie. Their version was, successful son-in-law funds our lifestyle. The $12,000 cruise wasn't a desperate plea from people struggling. It was a demand for a luxury item from people who felt they were owed it. As the day wore on, the messages got worse. They became more frantic, more personal. They attacked my character. They questioned my love for their daughter. They painted me as a greedy dragon sitting on a pile of gold. My wife was getting the same messages, and I watched as the color drained from her face. Every buzz of her phone was like a small electric shock. She was trying to work from home, and she finally had to put her phone in another room just to concentrate. I was in back-to-back meetings, and my phone, which I kept on silent, would light up on the corner of my desk every few minutes. A new text from Robert. A new text from Carol. A missed call from their home number. It was a digital siege. They were trying to wear us down, to break our resolve through sheer overwhelming pressure. They thought that if they just screamed loud enough for long enough, we would eventually cave and write the check just to make the noise stop. But with every hateful message they sent, they weren't breaking us down. They were forging our resolve in the fires of their own entitlement. My wife and I would check in with each other during breaks. "Anything new?" I'd ask. She'd just shake her head. "Same old stuff. Now I'm a terrible daughter who has been brainwashed by my materialistic husband. We almost had to laugh at the absurdity of it. We, the people working 60-hour weeks and saving for our future, were the materialistic ones. They, the ones demanding a $12,000 vacation they couldn't afford, were the victims. The final straw came around T-minus 1 hour. It was a long message from Carol, a desperate, rambling monologue that accused us of destroying the family and abandoning them, ending with the line, "I guess we know where we stand. You've made your choice. I hope all that money keeps you warm at night." I read it out loud to my wife. She just closed her eyes. "I'm done," she said. "I can't read another one. It's like they're pouring poison directly into my brain." We said no. We gave them a constructive alternative. And this is their response. This isn't a relationship anymore. It's just abuse. She was right. This had crossed the line from a disagreement into outright harassment. Our peace was gone. Our home felt invaded. Our phones had been turned into instruments of torture. We looked at each other. No more words were needed. The decision was made. As a senior IT project manager, I deal with firewalls and security protocols every day. I protect my company's digital assets from hostile intrusions. It was time to do the same for my family. I picked up my phone. My wife picked up hers. I walked her through the steps, find Robert's contact, go to settings, select block this caller, confirm, then find Carol's contact, do the exact same thing. It was a simple, quiet technical process, 2 taps on a screen, but it felt monumental. It was the final decisive swing of the hammer, driving the last spike into the seawall we had built, and then silence. The barrage stopped. The constant vibrating anxiety that had filled our house for nearly a full day just ceased. It was the most profound, most beautiful silence I had ever heard. We stood there in our living room, our phones in our hands, and there was nothing. No buzz, no notification, no poison. Just peace. A hard-won, desperately needed peace. We had done it. We reclaimed our lives not with anger, but with a calm, unified decision. We offered a bridge to self-sufficiency, and when they tried to burn it down while screaming at us from the other side, we simply muted the sound. The silence that filled our home wasn't empty. It was full of respect for each other, of the strength of our partnership, and the promise of a future where our hard work would go towards our dreams, not their demands. The realization was the true victory. Our primary responsibility is to the family we are building together. We don't know what will happen next, but we know one thing for sure. The direct line is closed. The bank of Axel and Spouse is officially and permanently out of business.